we wanted to connect the dots
Yeah.
around the island.
Yeah.
And I didn't know there were so many black people until I made this page myself. The first time I ever heard a black person with a non-Dublin accent, I was 18, 17 years old. you know,
Yeah.
so so we wanted to connect the community across the island, north and south of the border. We wanted to give the community a voice. We wanted to empower the community, but we also wanted to show and share with wider Irish society our history and our accomplishments. Because no matter what color or whatever anyone is on this island, the stories we share, the successes, the struggles, everything, they're all uniquely Irish.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Finnterviews. I'm your host Connor Finn, and this is a show where I get to chat to the most interesting people I know. On the show this week, I was thrilled to welcome on for a chat the brilliant Boni Odoemene. Now, if you're not familiar with Boni, you'll probably be more familiar with his work. He is one of the co-founders, co-creators of Black and Irish. And yeah, I suppose with it being Black History Month, I couldn't think of anybody better who, over the last year, with the likes of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement, has been instrumental to educating, empowering, creating a community that I suppose has kind of been left in the shadows for a long time. And yeah, on the chat, me and Boni kind of went through all of that. We talked all about his experience growing up black in Ireland, how he co-founded the Black and Irish Instagram page, which is now a phenomenal 50,000 followers on it, and even a podcast series, and basically the community and change that has since came from it through educating and sharing stories of the impact and history of the black community throughout Irish culture. Boni is one of the most articulate people I've had the pleasure of chatting to. He is just so passionate about educating everybody and kind of sharing, his own experiences and really shining a light on something that it's only been through this pandemic and it's only been through the last years that I think we've really jumped headfirst into some of the issues that have been underlying in our society, and Boni has just been doing it with the best flair and was an absolute pleasure to interview. But instead of me rambling on, because that's basically what the podcast is anyways, please do enjoy this latest episode of Finnterviews with the wonderful Boni Odoemene. Well, welcome back to another episode of Finnterviews. On the show this week, I am thrilled to welcome on, jeez, I can't even get the words out, Boni Odoemene. How's it going, Boni?
Hey, Connor, what's the story? How you getting
Could you
on?
see the sweat coming off my forehead there as we like recording and like trying to not fuck
You're
up anything?
grand. Sure, look, all in days good work, isn't it? You're grand. Go on.
Exactly. God, but how are we doing, Boni? How's the form? We were just chatting there. You have been living up life, having a good summer, and yeah, you're just coming out of a dark. What was that again?
Terminator.
Term.
Basically, I've spent the last week just binge watching every single Terminator movie. And not just that, I even sought out the TV series as well. So I don't know what it was. Blame Amazon Prime because they had the fifth Terminator movie in there. I was about 5 minutes into the movie. And I thought to myself, hold on, I need to catch up on the previous ones to figure out
Of
what's going on.
course, yeah. I mean,
And that's the
Jesus.
deep dark hole that threw me into. So look at we keep going.
Yeah, I mean, from one deep dark hole to another, you're on the interview, so Jesus Christ. I mean, like, we're just spiraling down here, fucking landsliding it. Jesus, you must be
Shall
like,
it go hard to go home?
you're like, yeah, get from the bottom, here we go up. But no, like, absolutely delighted to have you on. I mean, we've chatted a wee bit beforehand here just to make sure that I wasn't psychopath, so hopefully that didn't come across. But I suppose, Boni, for those who are tuning in and who maybe haven't heard of yourself, rude, but
No,
like,
you're grand.
yeah, but maybe give us a brief introduction. Maybe tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, background, kind of, I suppose, what you're known for, what we're going to be kind of have you chatting here about today.
Yeah, unreal. Thanks so much for having me on today, Connor. Really do appreciate it. So yeah, my name is Boni Odoemene. I'm 26 years old. I'm from South Dublin, currently living in London at the moment. I am the co-founder for Black and Irish, which is a page that was found just over a year ago to highlight the successes and struggles of Ireland's Black and mixed race community. As well as that, I'm a national podcaster with RTE. I'm one of the podcasters for the Black and Irish podcast, which has been an absolute privilege and honor to be co hosting. And finally, I'm known as also a TikToker, ranking
You.
up to over, will you stop now? It's the future, ranking up to over 166,000 followers on the app itself. So yeah, that's some of the things I do, and it's been fun. It's been amazing, but it's also been quite a privilege to be doing my part in educating, helping people overall. So yeah, it's been cool.
Yeah, I suppose like you wrapped it up a lot more succinctly than I fucking would. I like had three notes down here being a TikToker, and I was be like, I had the stats and all. You took that. That was my baiting point there. No, but as you said, I suppose like I mean that's where I probably initially came in contact with your work and your stuff was through I suppose the Black and Irish page, but also from Black and Irish podcast, like. And as well with your TikTok, I feel like that fed into, the way TikTok literally knows everything about you. Then obviously that started feeding in with it as well. But I suppose over the last couple of years, I mean, your journey kind of, I suppose, into this kind of role, being like a kind of spokesperson, somebody that's known, I suppose, for speaking about everything Black, Irish kind of history, like, culture, like dealing with kind of issues that I suppose over lockdown have become like one of the most prevalent things, I suppose, with Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. So many things are drawn to the forefront. I feel like has also given light to different people like yourself that are coming and people are looking for some kind of informative, some kind of education that like instead of walking on eggshells around things, they're being like, right, we want
Yeah,
people to have proper conversations and break things down in a way where it's not just being talked at, it's being talked through. And I suppose that's where I mean over the last kind of year I've kind of been following your story and stuff like this as well. So that's yeah, exactly.
unreal. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But I suppose like first and foremost, like as I was saying there, over the last year, it's been a bit mental, I suppose, even for yourself as well, and even just kind of
Yeah.
seeing all the amount of press and stuff that you've been on to, as you said, with the podcast as well, second season, pew, pew,
Hey, we
pew.
love to
but
see it.
but like I suppose, when did you first kind of get into this like role within you know activism, kind of speaking out about, I suppose, like Black and Irish, like I suppose even before the page, you kind of went off your own bat, wasn't it? Really,
Mm.
when you started off with the IGTVs, like. But I suppose was this something that like you kind of gravitated towards and had like passion for, or did you ever potentially have another path in mind? Because I mean, it seems from some of the things I've seen, like in your past and stuff, like this seems like a pretty traction line. It flew really easily into this, I suppose, from
Yeah,
like the rest of your kind of background.
that's actually interesting. 'Cause I've never been asked that question in this way, so thank you.
You're welcome. I'm a pro here or something.
Will you stop? Um, I think for me growing up in general, I've always been somebody that always saw the best in people, I would say.
Yeah.
I was a very curious kid growing up, you know. My dad used to buy me encyclopedias for fun, you know, and I loved them. And
Sorry, one
I
more
was
time.
always, my dad used to buy me encyclopedias and I would read them for fun. Can you imagine? Mad. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Crazy, I know. I was playing
Wow.
PS1 and PS2 at the same time, you know, but
Nerd.
um definitely a bit of a saucy nerd, you know, but I've always been someone that's always loved information, and in my home, education's always been highly championed. You know,
Mm,
my dad was a foreign officer for the Nigerian government, and my
mm,
mum was a teacher back in Nigeria. You know, before we moved to Ireland, and education was a massive thing. So education and care for everyone else in this weird way. See, so that kind of was always on my back in most things I would do.
mm,
Elements of this showed when I was in college, when I was in university at DIT, where, I, you know, co-founded the Law Society and was chair there, and then I got involved in the Students' Union. I was student union president and stuff like that. I've always been passionate about um I've always been passionate just about helping people in general, and whether that be the wider population or whether that be my local community in some capacity. And you asked me like before even the page, like it seemed like I was on this linear path. And it's quite interesting because it was something that was on that was these type of things came up when I first went for president
Mm.
in DIT, because I was elected the first black president there. So these type of questions came up as in regards to representation and everything under that umbrella, you know. So it was big for me at that time to be a face not just for the entire campus and the student population, but to be a face for people who look like me, to be able to, see someone who looked like them and then kind of inspire them to move forward itself, which I'm proud to believe that I did, like in general, representation and equality for everybody has always been something in the back of my head. I remember when I was in fifth class, and I look, I'll tell the story. I've never said it publicly, but I'll say it. I remember I was in fifth class, and a particular interaction took place between me and my teacher at the time, and
Mm.
I felt the way it was handled was quite unjust towards myself. And there I was, 10 years old, stood in front of the class and said, "No, that's racist. You can't pick me out like that." And it was
Jesus,
because of yeah,
10
and it
years
was
like
because
old.
I wasn't afraid at all. I thought, look, that's wrong. Don't do that.
Yeah,
Why am I the one being picked out here? Do you
yeah.
know? And it's because my father and my mum always told me that if you feel something's wrong, stand on your own 2 feet and believe in yourself. You know.
Mm.
So that this type of standing up against injustice was always something that I grew up with. I didn't
Mm.
know what it was, but it was like it was a small little flame that kind of gradually started to grow. And in 2020, summer 2020, when everything really kicked off in regards to the BLM movement, etc., that situation, like many other black and mixed race people at the time, forced me to really reflect on my upbringing and my experiences in a predominantly white society,
Mm.
and it got me really thinking to myself, what can I do as an individual to not just better support and elevate my community, but also improve my wider Irish society for all of us in some capacity. Because we all know that racism and discrimination is an illness,
Mm.
so it's really up to ourselves to play our part to find a vaccine. See that pun to it a bit there.
Oh, you're proud of yourself saying that as well. I say you
Oh,
just like give away glance
Jesus.
or a little
Yeah. Oh, that's
tip your hat.
disgusting, buddy. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but
But it was one of those things. So basically, like yourself, when the whole thing kicked off, I wanted to say something, I wanted to do something,
mm.
but I wasn't sure what to do. I remember at one point I wrote a poem, but I didn't feel that after bringing it back to my siblings, it wasn't impactful enough. So
Mm.
I just thought to myself, let me go on IG live with my little brother and little sister, and let's just talk about what we've always talked about behind
Yeah.
closed doors about ourselves growing up. And it was a blessing that it really, kicked off. And that was literally the spark that kind of kicked off everything that's led me to where I am today, which is a blessing, you know?
Yeah, and I suppose, I mean, it is funny. I suppose growing up as well with like your dad being a literal diplomat and your mum being a teacher, I feel
Yeah.
like it does kind of lend itself quite enough to being like somebody stand up, teaching others, taking care of other people, and like having that kind of like a, a way to like articulately like the way that obviously cannot like articulate in a
Yeah.
way like to differences or things even to explain to people, or just having the gumption to kind of be stand up as you said on your own 2 feet, like if something doesn't feel right and stuff like that. And I feel like obviously from a young age that's been something that's kind of lent itself to your own. But like I suppose, yeah, this obviously led itself through to something that's became so much bigger. Like, I mean, even with like the page itself on Instagram is like 50, like over 50,000
Yeah.
followers, stuff like that. And like the stories that you get as well. Like, I mean, like like, does it not actually kind of take it back a little bit? Like, because I know even when I was kind of going through and trying to do some research and stuff, like, but there's even for like the different people that are like coming out and find out about different people's identities and cultures, stuff like this. Like, was this something that, like, I know, like, obviously is part of your daily life now and kind of part of your almost identity as being like you're a person that's at forefront of this? Is this something that, like, you didn't expect to see going as mad as it has, or like, well, as successful as it has, should I say?
um, I didn't know what my expectations were,
Hmm.
Basically, the creation of Black and Irish itself, it was basically so following my IG live with my little sister, my little brother, the reaction the next morning was amazing.
Hmm.
I started getting blue ticks in my DMs, like thanking me, and I was like, "What is going on?" And I said, "You know what? I'll use this week and I'll keep this going." So the following day night, I had the same conversation with my other brother, and then after that, it was with some of with like my mates,
Hmm.
Leon, and then Femi. And then I was like, no, let me get more of my white Irish friends involved. So I had some of the IG lives with my white Irish friends because I
Hmm.
felt that this conversation is a conversation for all of us, no matter what your skin color is. And it was there was one night where I sat on a Zoom call with Leon Diop and Femi Bankole, the other two co-founders of Black and Irish,
Yeah.
and we spoke about the IG lives, and we as a trio reflected on our upbringing because funny story, me and Leon live in the same neighborhood, but for about yeah, crazy, but for I think it was I met him in 2016. Yeah, for 10 years we didn't talk to each other. It was mad.
Actively avoid it. He's like, here, there's that guy that's really into Terminator. Jesus, and keep it distant from him. Yeah.
Yeah, literally. I was like, we never spoke to each other for 10 years, and it was students' unions that brought us together. And I
Yeah.
knew Femi from when I was in DIT because he was a student union officer when I was in first year. So he did my induction when I came to college, like.
Yeah.
So we all kind of kept in touch, and Femi and Leon met each other through my I was hosting weekly Zoom pub quizzes. Well, I had
Mhm.
friends in America, Scotland, England, Ireland. So Femi and Leon like became rivals because they always came first and second. So it was from that the three of us became a trio, and that night we were just chatting about our upbringing because Femi grew up in Dundalk, so his experience as a black person was different, and Leon was sorry. Leon was a mixed race man who grew up in a white Irish household. His experiences were different. So the three of
Mm.
us reflected, and it was Leon that came up with the idea. I've got this idea with a domain website already sorted called Black and Irish. I don't
Mm.
know what I want to do with it, lads, but after our discussions tonight, let the three of us work together and do something. And we're like, yeah, let's do it. I don't know where I can't remember where the idea of an Instagram page came from, but yeah, that was where Black and Irish was born from. And in regards to our expectations, I hadn't a clue what we were getting into. I just knew for myself. I'll speak for myself. I just knew that I wanted to expose not just wider Irish society, but the world
Yeah.
to the Black Irish experience and to the voice. Many of us, I knew myself on an individual, but many of us are here but have felt invisible.
Mm.
Like I live in England at the moment, and the amount of times someone like, I never knew there's black people in Ireland, you know. It's not there's nothing wrong with that, but it's that invisibility
Yeah.
that I want to play a part in clearing up and letting people know that look, black people and mixed race people didn't just appear in Ireland post 1998, but we've been here for generations, we've been here for centuries. And if you don't believe me, check out Black and Irish and I'll prove it to you. And
You.
the feedback and the responses was crazy. Within our first hour, 1,000 followers, within our first week, 10,000. When at that time we had then Taoiseach Leo Varadkar even sharing one of our stories,
Yeah.
and we just didn't know what hit us, but we knew what we had here was something that had to be made, and it was something that we need to look after and keep authentic for our community.
Yeah. And I think one of, like, the standout things as well, like, from obviously, following the page and kind of following people's stories as well, like, it's not that, like, I think you've kind of put it in better terms. I'm gonna fucking make mincemeat of this. But you're saying, kind of explain about it. It's not like in a term like homogenous in terms of like, oh, everybody's dealt with the same thing. It's a lot of people, from different backgrounds, different shades, everything like this, have all kind of like had their own different experiences. But
Yeah.
you're obviously pulling together, being like, okay, creating a community where it's given shine the light on, as you said, people that are like communities that are literally invisible. Like as you said, even now going over like, and in England you're experiencing this, people are like, oh, didn't know there were black people in Ireland. Like I think that was one of the things that kind of really struck a chord with me as well. Like where it was just kind of finding out even more about, like, even with your TikToks, about the kind of history and about like,
Yeah.
like counties and stuff like that. Be like, well, I got a fucking fun fact for you that like me, like as like I feel like I should be better, better fucking knowledge and stuff like this around it. But like I know, like obviously there's outlets now for like,
Mm,
everybody can find all the information in the world. But in terms of like, so many other generations are, ahead of me, or like, older ones, stuff like this, like you can tell why, there has been an invisibility in that realm, because there has been like bollocks all talk, prior to like, I suppose, mainstream talk, and really like prior to this, that like has been able to create these conversations that we're having now. And I
mm,
suppose even with the likes of podcasts, like with you guys having guests on, like Emma Debris, like Max Zanga,
mm.
like do you know what I mean? Like people that are able to bring those kind of conversations into more of a colloquial kind of mainstream term, where
Yeah.
usually it's just fucking whitewashed, as you said. Like it's not seen, and it's not really like given enough purpose to, and I suppose wasn't really given a voice to. But I suppose, was that like kind of the inspiration behind your content, like to give all these different areas of voice, or like was there, in terms like even your own content as well, like was there anybody or anyone that particularly influences you whenever you go to do, say, the likes of podcast or your TikToks or anything like
Mm.
this? Is there kind of a purpose behind it, or use, I suppose, now just getting to the point where being like, we discovered each other from telling our own stories, and we want other people to discover each other from and benefit from the same way that we have?
Yeah.
That was long winded.
Uh,
I'm so sorry.
no, you're grand. You're grand. Don't worry about it. Um, I think with these type of things, it's very important that we always contextualize them, especially in the area of quote unquote activism that I'm in. It's quite
Mm,
easy to feel the urge to break down everything and try and start up
mm,
from the beginning in regards to the society in which you're living in, and to ask questions like, why aren't they black people here, or why is non-representation there? But I think overall it's important to contextualize this and understand that first and foremost, for the majority of her lifespan, Ireland has been an overwhelming white country. It still is
mm.
a majority white country, So it's not like yesterday it's a white country, today now we have to have representation here, there, and everywhere. But it's more so to understand, the history of this island, and the change in demographics, and on why, for example, you don't see enough, black or mixed race radio presenters or whatever.
Mm.
Why? You know what I'm saying? I think one thing that we understood very well when we first kicked off was that we recognized that our generation really are the first non-white Irish generation to have spent the overwhelming majority of our lives here, whether that be growing up here or being born here, going
Mm.
through every single level of the Irish educational system, and now we're in the workforce. So we are the first ever um, black products of Ireland. That's not Guinness, let me say, you know.
Yeah.
but but so it's really so knowing this, we recognize that it's up to ourselves to be those kind of, to be at the forefront, or to be the pioneers, to begin these conversations, to begin knocking and then opening these doors, not necessarily for ourselves but for the generation that comes after us, because it'll be them that'll be making the bigger impact than I am at the moment. So this is something that we recognize, and for us to do our job and do what we're doing correctly, we need to also we had to also recognize those who came before us, like Emma DeBerry, like Christine Buckley, like like Paul McGrath, etc., etc. I mean, because there were black and mixed race people in Ireland before myself, and there were black and mixed race people pushing for more representation and fighting against racism in this country before myself and black and Irish were even a thing. So what we want I think the main purpose behind our main purpose has been split in different ways, but in that context we wanted to connect the dots
Yeah.
around the island.
Yeah.
And it's I didn't know there were so many black people until I made this page myself. The first time I ever heard a black person with a non-Dublin accent, I was 18, 17 years old. you know
Yeah.
so so we wanted to connect the community across the island, north and south of the border. We wanted to give the community a voice. We wanted to empower the community, but we also wanted to show and share with wider Irish society our history and our accomplishments. Because no matter what color or whatever anyone is on this island, the stories we share, the successes, the struggles, everything, they're all uniquely Irish. They're a
Mm.
product of this land. So that's kind of been the main driver behind what we're trying to do. And yeah, we keep going because I don't know. It's hard not to when you're in love when you're in love with your country, when you're in love with your community. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Saying that over, you're already in England, but it's fine. Yeah, obviously.
Sure. Look,
Oh,
just
what
it's just
best
it's
of
just
yeah.
a quick visit. Let's just say. Now, you tell me any other Irish person that hasn't emigrated. Now, go
I
on.
ran across the border. I
Not
said
to
Brexit. See you later.
get about that.
No, no, what do you ask if you know? But like, I suppose, like, yeah, absolutely. That's what kind of is like. You put it best, like connecting the dots, like to a point, like where even like everybody's just trying to find out more, and I suppose it's creating that kind of community or that kind of network and junction of finding out about different stories that at the end of the day is all it's about not even just like black and Irish, but it boils down to Irishness and like the fact that it shouldn't almost be removed from each other, like as you said, like
Mm.
within the history and stuff like this, like it's more to be like this is all just products of landscape and we're all just people
And
from the
can I
same
also
kind of
add?
land.
And can I also add another driver was for us to take control of the narrative.
Yeah.
We all have our every single human being. We all have the capability of being judgmental or prejudgmental or having prejudice or forming an idea of a person or of a people based off external influences. We felt it was very important that the story of Black Irish people, mixed race Irish people, was told by us, at the end of the day. So we wanted to take back the microphone and let our voices be heard and listened to.
Listen to not me for a second.
James.
No, but like I suppose as well as part of this, I mean, I was already kind of talked to you about like obviously your upbringing and stuff like this, and things that I suppose I seen kind of whenever it's like hearing about your different like discussions, kind of like where you got to where you are today. I kind of seen a trajectory, obviously, kind of leading to being a spokesperson, being articulate, as you said, being able to take that kind of stand, but. I suppose before this like journey into the spotlight as black and Irish spokesperson, like maybe I always find it interesting if people have maybe had character building jobs like growing up that maybe informed I feel like it helps
Mm,
kind of inform the kind of person you are, things that humanize you a little bit, ground you into the kind of world of train. I don't know if you've had many. I'm talking like part-time jobs, just weird ones here and there. I don't know if
yeah.
any of those that you've experienced have kind of like grinded you down or to the point where like has informed the kind of way that you are able to deal with things today and stuff like this. I mean, I don't know.
There is one that really stands out, Connor. It was my very first full-time job. It was a summer job. The summer of 2014, I was recently turned 19 years old, and it was door-to-door sales. And
Oh.
well, you can imagine what that was like.
Oh.
Um,
Go
look,
on.
this is post. Look, at that time, it was one, and I'm sure it's still the same to extent, but if you don't have experience, then it's quite hard to, really get your foot into the job market. But
Hmm.
door sales always is like a revolving door of people, being part of the cog. And I was a door salesman. It was something I did not because I wanted to per se, but because I had to. And I didn't necessarily enjoy all my experiences, but I there was a lot of experiences that played a part in my character development, and I really did cherish. Uh, there's a few things. So for one, the job itself taught me a lot about people in the sense of reading body language, in the
Hmm.
sense of taking rejection, how to turn a negative into a positive, maintaining a strong mental mindset. When you're walking the streets of Ireland in a suit in the
Oh,
heat sometimes, and
Jesus.
we don't get much heat, but for some reason, whenever I was doing the doors, there was heat, you know.
Blistering. Yeah, honestly.
Where I was like, where were you on the weekend when I'm not working, And doing those doors, learning about different Irish, coming towards different Irish households, different types of families, different types
Hmm.
of people. It really exposed me to an Ireland I didn't know, and the most influential aspect of it was that I didn't just do Dublin. I did all over. I did Drogheda. I did
Oh,
Carlow.
jeez, God
You
love him.
know, I did all over. And I'm like I'm a typical dub. Like I don't really leave the county. Heck, I don't even really cross the Liffey, to be honest. And I keep it south side most of the time. Do you know what I mean? Like so,
Yeah.
and doing doors in in Drogheda or in Cavan, or like they'll say literally they'll say the back arse of nowhere,
Oh,
basically.
genuinely. Yeah.
Like
Culture shock, like.
spots like I had never thought I'd be going to, doing those doors and coming across different parts of Ireland really opened my eyes to the country. And you know what? My experiences of the people I came across at the doors overwhelmingly was positive. A lot of the times, especially when I was out in the countryside, a lot of people are quite surprised to come across a black lad with a dub accent like mine. They're like, "What the hell is this?" I'm like, "I don't know. Like, you tell me," But that summer was amazing because I was exposed to my country in a way I didn't think I'd ever be exposed to. I learned how to deal with rejection. I improved my public speaking, but I also learned to appreciate the different types of people that's out there. So I was able to definitely apply those skills and those that experiences when I went into student politics and when I
Hmm.
then went into the workforce itself. It was mad.
Yeah, yeah. I would say
Yeah.
that is one of the, I suppose, most informative fucking jobs you'll ever get if you're ever working young. And my brother, that was one of his first jobs as well. And he would have been quite quiet in himself. Like he would have been like a real
Mm,
gamer, stuff like this. Like if you would have, put him out into, loads of different people, like I think he would have been quite anxious about like, having to
mhm.
go and, introduce himself and having to take that first step forward. Honestly, he did the job as
And
well, but he did it in Belfast, where it's like you're not even
cool.
crossing over, between some areas, whatever, like this. You're crossing over to some communities where they'll be like, "What's your surname?" And then he's been like,
Yeah.
he's like,
Jeez.
so
And
like, yeah,
and the thing that also was very helpful doing that job for me was the other employees there, because door-to-door sales where I was anyway, it attracted a lot of foreign nationals.
yeah,
So I was exposed for the first time to like I was exposed and got to know properly for the first time, Irish, Brazilians, Croats, Slovenians, Filipinos, even like Irish lads from the super south side, I call super south side of Dublin, that I would never work with. The guys who kind of talk like this.
oh,
So
Boni, yeah, absolutely
yeah,
singy,
so
yeah.
I had never like I didn't go to school like I didn't really go to school like that, but I was exposed to people, not just different types of Irish people, but different types of people from around the world. Picked up different languages, got to learn about different communities and cultures, and it really embedded it really like confirmed my perception that at the end of the day, people are people, and yeah, we have our flaws, but It's important that we realize that the same flaws another person may have is the exact same I have the potential to have myself, you know?
Yeah.
That's mad.
Yeah. You never made it up to Armagh, did you?
Oh no, we didn't cross the border. I think
It's,
we
it's
kept it
for,
south of the border.
for the best, for the best, honestly. Yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't have mind, you know. I would have had a great time up north. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you'd
Definitely.
be, yeah, Southsider coming up to Armagh to be like, "Rat-ta-ta-ta." I remember literally coming down here and being like, the amount of ones I've chatted to would be like, oh, from Armagh, and I'd be like, yeah, grand. And then they'd be like, God, like, after me some things about, like, God, it's like not a bit mad up there. And I'm like, no, like, nothing's really happened at all. And then I start, like, talking about, like there was only a couple like bomb scares, whatever, like this. We had to close the cafe. Do you know, you got some days off, whatever.
Mm.
And then I realized I'm normalizing that, and then I go like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I have a
But
couple of
no,
friends from up
like,
north, and they would say the same thing. And I remember when I first heard that, I was like, "I'm sorry, that is not normal."
but I mean, yeah, but I suppose it kind of lets you. I mean, as you said, those kind of jobs get you informed into, find so many different groups of people, especially stepping
Mm.
out of your shell and being able to be like, I need to have conversation and kind of sell yourself as like, reading that body language and things like this. But I suppose as well, moving on from that, I mean, young boy to where you are today, like, have there been any major standout moments that kind of like came from this, I know, journey in quote unquote activism, and like that I suppose you never thought could have imagined, like maybe an RT podcast, really? Like, is that like one of the standout ones, or is there any ones that you're being like, people, as you said, reaching out to you and being like, you're making a difference? Is that like any of those kind of situations been like, frig, this is like pinch me moment?
The RT podcast was definitely a standout moment. It was a major chapter in what we're trying to do because
Hmm.
it was a national broadcaster opening its ears and giving us an opportunity to be a vessel for our community.
Hmm.
That was a major standout moment for us. But I think one moment where I think I had to pinch myself and just take a breath and say, this is actually happening. And that was when the Taoiseach at the time, Leo Varadkar, had shared one of our stories on his Instagram page. That was mad. That was just like it was a couple of things. It was I think I put under an umbrella, not just him. It was just the type of like influential and celebrities that got in touch,
Hmm.
like Laura Whitmore, who shared our stuff, Yewande, who gave us a shout out. Some of the guys from Boyzone and Girls Aloud, Nadine Coyle sometimes comments on our stuff. I was like, I remember there was one time Dan Randolph, the Irish goalkeeper, was just watching one of our lives, and I was like, oh, what is going on? Like, is this actually real? Because
Yeah.
you see, you have those like imaginations of what would be like if I did something that was famous, or
I.
like you ever watch those documentary, not document, those movies and like how like these group of whatever people made something and then led them to this. We're like,
Yeah.
lads, I don't know, are we living that? Like, I don't know what is going on. And then having like the BBC reach out to us, Sky News, all these news outlets was an absolute blessing. But and then doing talks for the Irish consulate and for the city of New York and stuff. I think all these invites and all these like exposures have always every single one of them stand out in my head of
Yeah.
wow, I'm truly grateful for these. But it was at the very beginning when I didn't know how big this could grow,
Hmm.
when just seeing the overwhelming pouring of appreciation and gratitude. No, it really did. It really was something that kind of took me aback and made me just step back and think to myself, this can't be real life. Yeah,
Yeah, I suppose that's it. Like, do you know what I mean? I mean, like, as you said, I mean, this is only starting out, really. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, who knows
mad.
where it's going to go from here? But I mean, on the flip side of that, I suppose with everything, like, there's positives, like, and it seems like there has been so much of like positive energy and positive, enjoyment, and people really, coming together from it. But have there been any kind of major, I suppose, horror stories or like conversations I kind of like led from this as well, where you do put yourself in that kind of like role as I'm here talking about it. Has there been like, I mean, it sounds weird to say it, but has there been like backlash?
Yeah, what we do, like whenever you talk about racism, especially on an online platform or an online scenario, there will always be backlash.
Mm,
Whether there be racists in your comment sections, ignorant people who just don't get it. There's only so much, there's only so much of a word caption you can use to respond to someone, you know.
mm,
Um, yeah, but like, with talking about this stuff, there's always going to be backlash, and I'm not really like if you care enough about what you're trying to do and the change you're trying to bring forward, you should welcome the backlash because that means you're doing something right, in my opinion.
yeah.
But there was a moment, to give you a horror story. It was last summer, I think it was around August last year, so almost a year ago now. We decided to launch our Twitter account. What a mistake at that
Mm.
time.
Jesus, the hellscape on earth. Like, don't get me wrong, Twitter, great for like humor or something, but like, Jesus,
Yeah.
if there's an area where people feel like they can like just land on, oh my
Mm,
God, I'm like, you need to take a step back. Like, even
it's a
like, I'm
free
not
for
even
all in that
involved of
place.
anything on it, and I take a step back because I'm like,
Mm.
fucking hell, toxic. Like,
Yeah, I think I would describe Twitter as the wild, wild west of social media. It's a lawless place. And then when we launched the page itself, we started sharing the stories as we would, but we wouldn't share
yeah,
the whole stories. What we will do is that we will share the person's hopes for Ireland. So
mm,
something positive, and we'll have the photo of the person. And we weren't just getting horrible, horrible messages on comments to those posts, but we were getting them not from Ireland, but from people from all over the world, racists, Nazis, the whole lot. And
freak.
I would say, I'm with confidence. I would say I'm a strong-minded person. But
Mm,
that day, it did break me. I remember I was in the gym, still always between each set, checking to see another comment, and being a fool and responding, and allowing myself to fall into this tunnel. And I remember calling Leon and Femi and just low key breaking down, like, lads, what is this? I think what got me is because one of the stories I put up was my brother. So I've
yeah.
seen what people were saying about my brother, and yeah, it kind of hit me personally. So we decided to take a step back, delete everything. It wasn't us giving in to the trolls or giving in, because it wasn't just trolls, these were actual people as well. It wasn't us
Mm,
giving in, but it was us re-evaluating our strategy
mm.
and protecting the people who choose to share their stories. Because I know myself, if I wouldn't like to see my photo on a page I don't have control of with such comments like that. So I wanted to
Yeah.
protect those people who decide who were kind enough to share their stories. So what we just did, and it's been working ever since. We don't share the photos, but we share the full story. So on Twitter they have like their word count. So we'll put
Mm.
a piece, then in the comments, next piece, next piece. If there's no photo, who are you attacking? All you have is a name, and it's
Yeah.
worked out in a good way, which I've been thankful for. And it's worked so well. The funny thing is now is that we get more racist attacks on our Facebook rather than our Twitter. And a lot of times there are real people on the Facebook with their kids in their profile photos.
Oh, of course they are
Yeah,
as well.
the
Like,
whole
oh,
lot.
Jesus.
It can be disappointing, but also it's a consistent reminder as to why we have to keep going with what we're doing.
Yeah, I suppose that's it as well. Like, I mean, with the kind of downs or, the fucking negativity from it, I suppose that kind of raises more to the point where being like, this is the reason why we're doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like, if
Yeah,
there's even people engaging with it and fucking being wankers, like just being assholes about the stuff, like at least they're fucking engaged with it rather than just, fucking staying in their echo chamber and staying in that kind of like,
exactly.
oh, I've never known about this, whatever. Like, it's like, no, now you know. Now you're just being
Mm.
actively an arsehole. So
But I'm
let's
happy with
reevaluate
that.
that.
When I reflected on this, because I remember one of the biggest fears you have when you're running whether that be your own social media platform, a personal or professional social media platform, is having people attack you in the comment section. How do you respond to that?
Mm,
I mean, how do you deal with this, etc.? It's like blah blah blah. But in a weird way, when I reflected on this, and I think the lads on the team are saying, I welcome the negativity. I welcome, not like welcome, yeah, come right in, yeah, go on, you mad thing, go on, not like that. But I'm not afraid of it. Basically, I don't
Bonnie,
fear
welcome
it.
cyberbullying.
Imagine, am I mad? Bloody hell! But when I say when I say I welcome it, what I mean by that is that it is these people I want. We want to see our content. It is
Yeah.
these people who need our content more than they know. And all it takes, I know, is just one story to hit a chord, and it might be the seed that could be planted to help someone kind of see people who look like me in a different way.
Yeah.
Because there's real fear out there. Nowadays, especially with the amount of information we have. Some may question whether we even informed. So
Mm.
it's about understanding that, and trying to see what we can do to create a space where people are willing to learn, if they are willing to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose, like, with that kind of in mind, and like, obviously, where everything has kind of been developing on through, and like everything else has been going so well for yourselves, like, and your objectives, like, what you kind of, initially thought this would be, and like where it's kind of developed on from there. Like, what does the future hold for, like, everything, like, well, even for yourself, Bonnie, like, are there any big goals that, like, even you want to achieve that you haven't yet, or like with the page, like with the rest of guys, like, I mean, where do we go from here?
What the future looks like, I know the future is as bright as my smile. I tell you that now, Connor.
Hey.
Jeez, how cringe was that? But yeah. Mm.
We'll stick to turn here, Koso.
Sure, look, I've said it now, it's done now, so we move. Um, the future I know is positive and bright for Black and Irish. We continue to grow, we continue to do what we can to support our community. It's very important, that we recognize and that everyone else understands that Black and Irish is not the only voice of Black and mixed race Irish people out there. We're not the
Mm,
only vessel for empowerment and change in the Isle of Ireland. We want, like, we're just one we're just one piece to the bigger puzzle, and it's been an honor, and it's been good to know that we're a piece that's doing a lot of good for our community, and it's become quite influential. But we want more organizations. We want to see more, successful Black and mixed race people doing good things for this island, or for this community, for not just our community, but for the wider Irish society as a whole. Because
mm.
we've been doing good things for this island. So the future is good. The future is bright. And for myself, I would say the exact same thing. I'm just going to continue doing what I do, creating a safe space for people to want to learn about myself and my community and my people,
Mm.
educating people, and playing my part individually and via Black and Irish in molding this new Irish identity. It's nothing to be afraid of, and that's what we're trying to show people. But it's something to be embraced, because what it means to be Irish today is definitely what it meant. It's definitely not what it meant to be Irish 200 years ago, 100 years ago, 50
Mm.
years ago, and that's what it is. These things always change, but it takes all of us, white, black, or other, to play our part in helping mold it for the better, for the better. Yeah, for the better.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
the better, jeez.
Yeah, for the better. It could be for the better of your
Yeah.
family, for the better of your community, for the better of the island, for the better of the country. I'll leave the little gap, the little blank space up to yourself and your listeners.
Yeah. Yeah, and I suppose, like, geez, I suppose that's like the best kind of outcome that you can really look for. I mean, and from, I know, like, the momentum that you guys have been hitting so far, and I suppose the amount that, like, even like everybody, I suppose, has been welcoming it, and it has been developing so much. I mean, I've no fucking doubt that the only kind of way is kind of go up from here, and as well with other kind of different organizations, stuff like this. Like, I mean, it seems to be going in the right direction. I mean, for the best, like, lack of better words, like, that's kind of
Mm.
seems to be in a positive kind of light. But I suppose, just before we go on, because I realise that I've almost been chatting for an hour, Bonnie, and you're literally
Let's
being
go
like,
for
get me
another
out of
hour.
here. I've got birthdays to organise. I was wondering, just before I let you go and then do all the plugs, blah, 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 blah. I have been making some notes of some like little key phrases, little key words throughout that. Like, I wonder if you do a wee bit of a word association kind of game with me. Just kind of get,
Okay,
quick, like whatever comes to mind first. Are you up for it?
let's go. Let's do it.
Okay. So don't be worrying. Everything's kind of been said through this, but it's just whatever comes to mind first. So here we go. First one, encyclopedia.
Information.
Terminator.
The future.
Door-to-door sales.
Oh, get me out of here.
TikTok.
Oh, the new TikTok.
One word. Come
Madness. Madness.
on. Madness. Twitter.
No.
Black and Irish.
Amazing.
And finally, Finnterviews.
Brilliant.
But, I mean,
Brilliant.
you said it, not me. But like, oh no, every single
For
time I
Black and
said
Irish, I want to replace amazing with superpower. Yeah.
superpower.
Shout
I
out to
think-
Polynema for that one. Superpower.
I think, yeah, that's better. That's better one from it now. But no, I suppose, Bonnie, thanks so much for giving up. I mean, your Friday afternoon to chat to this
You're
wee
grand.
spacky
Thank you
kid.
so much, Connor.
No, honestly, I suppose for people that obviously have maybe been listening to this today and you kind of want to follow yourself and, I suppose Black and Irish, anything that I suppose you're a part of and like all the kind of amazing work that you're doing, where can they find you? Where can they follow you? Where can
Yeah.
they, contribute and etc. etc.
Yeah, cheers. So first and foremost, if you want to follow Black and Irish and join us on this amazing journey in improving our country and our society for the better, on Instagram we are at Black_and Irish. That's the same for our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter and TikTok at Black and Irish at Black_and Irish. For myself on an individual level, my Instagram is at BONBONOD_. That's at BonOD_. And my TikTok, which is an amazing piece of just amazing.
Oh, honestly,
It's,
beautiful.
Honestly, I need to post something soon someday. But yeah, my TikTok is at BonBonOD14. So that's BonBonOD14.
I mean, there you have it. Thank you so much for coming on. Make sure to, I love that I'm fucking being like, make sure to like, follow and whatever like this. Like nobody's coming through me to find you. I'm literally being like, I'm just privileged I'm being here. No, but thanks so much for coming on. I mean, enjoy the rest of your evening and absolute pleasure, man. Just cannot fucking wait to see where you go from here, honestly.
Thank you, Connor. It's been a pleasure. Take it easy.
No worries. See you later. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Finnterviews, and thank you so much to Boni. It was an absolute pleasure having the chats with him, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. If you did, please do remember to give us a like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff on whatever listening platform you're on. And also, do not forget to give us a like and a follow on socials. I am on basically everything. Mainly Instagram is my go-to one, and yeah, give us a wee follow there. It's Finnterviews_podcast. I'm also on Facebook and all the rest of it. Just type in Finnterviews online and you'll find me there. But yeah, you can get in touch and let me know who you would like to hear on the podcast next. Until then, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll chat to you later. Bye.